The trick is to write like your boss. Hey, I am Chuck the bureaucrat, and to bring you up to speed, Colonel Thompson told Major Riley to write a ghost note for General McNulty. And since this is Major Riley's first time writing a ghost note, he's been putting a lot of thought into it. Now, before we go too far, I do have to make one technical point about ghost notes, or ghost emails, or gems as some people call them. Microsoft Office has a feature where you can save an email as a file on your drives. That way you can use it later, or you can transfer it to somebody else who just opens it and sends it as if they wrote that email. That is the more sophisticated version of a ghost note. The less sophisticated way to do a ghost note is to just send your boss an email that contains the text that they will then cut and paste into an email that they create themselves. Now, I've used both of these, and it really comes down to your boss's preference on how they like to handle ghost notes. But to keep things simple, Major Riley is going to use the less sophisticated technique. After drafting the ghost note, Major Riley goes to Gary and asks him to look over it. And Gary says, Okay, first, let's make it clear where the text of the ghost note begins and ends. Now make it clear that you're sending this to General McNulty for him to send to General Foster. Wait, what are you doing? Her staff is withholding data? That's kind of provocative. Riley says, well, they have been stonewalling us for weeks. And Gary says, okay, but you don't want to put something into an email that's going to make people get defensive. And Riley's like, well, this is just an internal email. And Gary's like, look, you gotta assume that the whole thing is going to get transmitted exactly the way you write it. And Riley's like, well, how about this? Gary's like, okay, that's good. Now, General Foster is a peer of General McNulty, so there's no way he's going to be calling her ma'am. Just use her first name. And Riley's like, don't worry, it's not going to be a problem, and make the closing less formal too. And then Gary says, all right, now, we want to start with a friendly opening that sets the context of the email. Ooh, that's good. And then we want to be less specific about what we want, and we don't want it to sound like an ultimatum. Say it like this. Before I support your plan, I've asked Colonel Thompson to prep me on the history of system investments. That lets General Foster know how she benefits by giving us the numbers. And then just say if Colonel Bishop sent us a copy of that history, it'd speed things up. Yeah, show that to Colonel Thompson and see what she thinks. And Riley stops him and says, hang on. You know that if we don't get that data, we won't be able to do any analysis. And out of nowhere, Gary gets this really sly look on his face. And he says, oh, there's always ways to get those numbers. If this doesn't work, I'll show you an old trick that always works. Listen, are you sick of getting stonewalled? Subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on what comes next.